بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, brothers and sisters. This is your brother Abdurrahman Babakir. Alhamdulillah, today we had a very crucial, important and beautiful khutbah by Sheikh Saeed Bursal. We would like to welcome him. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa
Barakallahu
barakatuh.
feek and jazakallahu
Fikum
khair for being here.
barakallah.
Barakallahu feek, alhamdulillah. And so, alhamdulillah, today the khutbah was by the favor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon you. MashaAllah, it was very elaborative and beneficial for everyone who's going to hear it. And so, inshallah, we excite everybody to kind of go there and try to watch the khutbah fully. But here, inshallah, is going to be kind of a summary for it. And we're going to focus on the part of, the importance of seeking knowledge or learning about Islam and the importance of knowledge to the Muslim. And as we know, a lot of actually ayat and hadith talking about that, and subhanallah, telling us the reward of knowledge or the benefit of knowledge and the difference between those who know and not know. And from this, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, قُلْ هَلْ يَسْتَوِي الَّذِينَ يَعْلَمُونَ وَالَّذِينَ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. Say, is the ones who know and not know, are they equal? No, subhanallah al-azim. And then the Prophet ﷺ as well said, مَنْ يُرِدِ اللَّهُ بِهِ خَيْرًا يُفَقِّهُ فِي الدِّينِ. Whomever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants good for them, He makes them understand the fiqh of religion and the knowledge of religion in general, and so on, from the istishhad or ayat and hadith from the Quran and the Sunnah of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And so, inshallah, if you can, let's say, shine a light on this point of the importance of knowledge, as well as how can the Muslim, when they learn this knowledge, what really is gonna, what difference is knowledge gonna make in their life, and how can, what are they gonna benefit from this knowledge in their life? Barakallah.
Fikum barakallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Your brother Imam Saeed Bursal from the Islamic Center of Irving. The subject of knowledge is one very near and dear to my heart. Alhamdulillah, I've been Muslim nearly 30 years, and almost that entire time has been a process of seeking knowledge, because it's through knowledge that we understand our deen. And through understanding our deen is how we safeguard ourselves. If we want to take it to the most basic, selfish, if you will, point of view, there's our brother mentioned a number of hadith, but there was one in particular that was running through my mind, where the gist of the part is that whoever travels a path in search of knowledge, that Allah eases for them the path to Jannah. So knowledge is a means to helping ourselves, and at its most basic level, that is one of the greatest values of knowledge, because without knowledge, it's like not having an adequate map to guide us to our destination. We want to get somewhere. All of us, if we have any faith in Allah on the last day, we want to get from where we are to a certain destination, and that destination, inshallah, is Jannah and the pleasure of Allah. In order to reach that destination, we need to know the pathway. And that pathway is known through knowledge. The more knowledge we have, the easier it will be for us to travel on that path, and the more we learn, we may learn of the shortcuts. We may learn of the things that ease us, the expressways, if you will, to get us around certain slower patches in the journey. But the knowledge is amazingly critical, and it's to protect ourselves, because at the end of the day, as Allah mentions in the Quran, is that we will all be raised barefoot, naked, and uncircumcised. We will be standing alone, answering for ourselves. And so we can't blame our mother, our father, our wife, our son, our daughter, or whoever, anybody else, for our lack of knowledge. If we do not take personal responsibility in gaining that knowledge, we are liable. Our parents have a role to play when we're children, but at a certain point, their job is done. We have become responsible adults, individuals that are accountable for ourselves, our choices, our actions, both of omission and commission. In other words, what we do and what we don't do. And if we choose to not gain the knowledge we need, it's not to say everybody needs to be a scholar. That isn't what we're saying. But everybody needs sufficient knowledge to help them travel along the path. Some people may need more knowledge than others in order to be safe upon the path. Some people, a very basic understanding might be all they need. But we need all of that knowledge. And one of the critical points when we talk about gaining of knowledge, and I was alluding to this in the Khutba, that the way we teach sometimes is part of the problem. Because we teach without the idea of the hearts accepting the lessons and inculcating them and taking them into themselves and letting them inform the inside of an individual, their heart, their intentions and their conversations and even their emotions. That doesn't happen by rote memorization. That happens by a teaching which seeks to inculcate understanding and acceptance. And that is not a simple matter. That is not something that can be done through rote memorization and just cramming information into somebody's head. That requires a meticulous and a progressive approach. So no matter where you're at in your journey, you need to understand your level. You need to have the humility to admit to yourself what you know and what you don't know. And be willing to start at the basics. And there's many examples of the scholars and the imams of the past where they wrote books on the same topic at various levels because they understood that students were not all of the same stripe. They weren't all of the same category. So there was introductory texts that taught very basic lessons around fiqh, for instance. And they kept it very simple and straightforward. And then they expanded upon that in another tome, which is for the middle student. And then finally another tome, which is enormously detailed for the advanced students. We have to know our level and be willing to start where we need to start. Not to, as I've seen, especially with converts and people that rediscover their Islam, that we try to race to the end of the road and study the most high-level texts or the high-level subjects, and it becomes a fitna for us because we're not ready for that information. We don't have the maturity spiritually or sometimes even intellectually to grasp the information and to make the conclusions and achieve the growth that's necessary from that information. There's a reason that things were done in the way that they were. And even Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there's many examples of commands and things that were revealed gradually. Even, I was thinking of one, but my mind's shifted. Even the salah, if you think. The salah was not instituted all at once. The salah initially was not a requirement in the sense of 5 daily prayers, but you were praying 2 rak'ahs here, 2 rak'ahs there, and it was more open. The commandment for the 5 prayers came later, towards the end of the Meccan phase. And even while they were in Mecca, they prayed as if they were travelers, until they finally settled in Medina, when they were established, and they started to pray. And so those prayers came gradually. And even the development, when you're teaching prayer, one of my teachers stressed the importance of when you're teaching, say, a new Muslim. One of the mistakes that people make many times is they throw everything about Salah at a new Muslim right away. So they're tossing all of these Arabic terms at them, they're tossing these long litanies of du'as and remembrances, etc. at them, and all of these additional things when the bare basics of the salah that is required for an acceptable and complete salah is very minimal and is very simple. Even, and this is one of the most glaring examples of a lack of knowledge, or at least a lack of wisdom in the way that new Muslims are taught. And I'm focusing because the khutbah that we were talking about was on da'wah in particular, was reflections on da'wah because of my activities in the previous week. One of the biggest mistakes that is made in teaching new Muslims that I've seen so many times is when it comes to prayer, and we all know prayer becomes an obligation pretty much immediately after the Shahada. But needless to say, a new Muslim, especially one that's coming from a Western context, they don't understand Arabic, let alone the words and the rituals necessary for prayer. So what do? How do you help them fulfill that obligation? These crash courses in Salah are not necessarily doing them many favors. It confuses them more than it helps them many times. The prophetic guidance in these matters is that whatever you don't know, like Al-Fatiha or even the Tashahhud, these are required elements of the prayer that must be there in Arabic according to most scholars. If you don't know these things yet, and obviously a new Muslim, they're not going to know this yet. So what do? If they've just taken Shahada, or if they've just started learning about Islam, there's going to be a few things they're vaguely familiar with. Statements like La ilaha illallah, most likely Allahu Akbar. Some of these are subhanallah, things like these, simple basic dhikr. This was the prophetic guidance in these matters, is that whatever you don't know, you repeat the dhikr in that instance until the time to, you approximate the length that you would normally recite the other material, then you change your positions. And wherever you don't know what to say next, you just keep repeating the dhikr. And this is what you do as you're continuing to learn what it is you need to know. So there's a way, there's a method. Instead of pouring this responsibility on them that they can't possibly cope with. And then you get into the questions of, can I read it from a piece of paper? Can I say it in English? These are unnecessary questions that Muslims should never have to ask. The solution was already there, but too often that solution is never presented.
Jazakallah khairan for this, and I hope that we all really try to apply this piece of advice, because it's coming from experience and it's coming from seeing people and what people are doing. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us from those who listen and follow the best. Jazakumullahu khairan. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.